Hello everybody, this is Neil Allen, the comic creator behind the series ZATSWAN Multiversal Guardian, which you can check out at ZATSWAN.com. And recently I made a video about Hal Jordan fans pushing back against the relationship with Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, Green Lantern John Stewart that is, and Hawkgirl being brought over into the comics. And I got a response on that video, and this isn't an attack on this individual or malicious. I'm just making a video about it because, just for the sake of discussion. So I'm going to respond with this comment, and thank you for leaving this comment. It's a good comment and, well thought out. So let's get right into it. This user says, I don't want to give like a whole rant about this. Well, I mean, you can if you want. But I hate the John Stewart and Shira Hull relationship. It has nothing to do with Hal, absolutely not. And I believe that. I'm a Hawkman fan. That explains it. The jail show's romance has made it super awful for Hawkman, Hawkwoman, and Hawkgirl, Carter, Shira, and Kendra for the last 20 years. They've been in flux for years. Well, let me pause here. They've been in flux for years of no real fault for the Justice League cartoon. That's been because of DC Comics editorial decisions. One single cartoon didn't cause the problems that the Hawks have. But moving on. Robert Venditti did an amazing Hawkman run recently, which finally seemed to fix the whole problem. I recommend reading that. Thank you. I have heard positive things from people about that. Moving on. It's the best Hawkman run maybe ever. Of course, I've never read it, but from my just kind of outsider looking in thing, because it seems to me that like Hawk World is the most beloved Hawkman run, and also Shadow War. But I guess I've heard good things about this, like Robert Venditti run as well. Anyway, moving on. Suddenly undoing the events of that series to please fans of the cartoon is a terrible idea. A fine and reasoned take. Now, like, one of the problems that I really have with DC Comics is that none of the runs really seem to matter. Like they'll start something and then a year later that run will be basically disregarded, forgotten, and not referenced ever again. And it seems to be like a constant cycle of this going on. And when you treat your stories that way, there's like really no reason for people to be invested in them, because they don't have any insurance that anything they're going to read actually matters at all. And that is one of the big issues, I think, with these current corporate superhero comics. So I understand like where this reader is coming from. Moving on. Not everyone who hates the romance is hating on John. I like John, but the Hawks don't deserve this. Why it's been off the table is because it's never been a thing in the comics. Let me pause you here. Neither Batman Beyond didn't originate in the comics. Harley Quinn didn't originate in the comics. Renee Montoya didn't originate in the comics. Roxy Rocket didn't originate in the comics. And they've all been incorporated in the comics. The way the Fortress of Solitude looks didn't originate in the comics. So it's things from other media have been influencing comics for decades. So that doesn't completely answer the question of why this relationship has been off the table in the comics. That's not the reason. it's at least not the only reason, but I would go as far as to say it's not the reason at all, because plenty of other things have been incorporated into the comics. John Stewart's Marine background has been incorporated into the comics. This relationship is something different. There's a different reason why this has not been incorporated into the comics. Okay, so it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with Hal. It has everything to do with it not being part of Hawkman and Hawkwoman's characters in their 80-year history. But wait a minute, that is a part of Hawkwoman's character in her 80-year history, though. Like, it actually is one of, if not the most prominent things she's actually been a part of. And see, that's kind of the issue. It's this downplaying to the point it's not even recognized. That's a thing that you like often encounter if you're a fan of something like this. To say that it has nothing to do with Hal is, it may not directly, but I think it indirectly ties back to him for a couple reasons. And I'm not saying that this is the case with this particular commenter, but a lot of the same people who argue these sorts of points, they're the same people who would like prefer Hal Jordan as like the primary Green Lantern, and for many of the same reasons. This is the way it should be. This is the way it was meant to be. This is the way it's always been. And a romantic relationship, especially among different superheroes, like different superheroes from different mythologies, can, if done well, and has in this case, elevate both characters. So I don't want to say that that's a factor for everybody who dislikes this relationship, but to remove Hal Jordan from the conversation completely, I think would be a bit naive. I think it's like, because I mean, I've seen some of this before. It's the same people who are arguing for the same things. You know what I mean? And that's fine. And you could say, well, the reasons are obvious why they would, because the John Stewart romance with Hawkgirl is wrong. And you know, it's that kind of viewpoint. I see why they have that viewpoint. But to be honest, like DC Comics, the storytelling is ever evolving. And whether they like it or not, and obviously they don't, you know, this actual relationship between these two particular characters, like Green Lantern and Hawkgirl, has been very successful and been very popular. And that's something to consider. I hesitate to say that Hawkman and Hawkwoman has been very successful and very popular, and therein lies a big, big reason why I think, again, these are people that I think it's fine for them to voice their opinion. I think discussion on the issue is, it's interesting, and you know, I'm happy to take part in it. But and I don't think I have to tell this to DC, because they're obviously going to do what they're going to do. But there are some opinions that, you know, you're just going to have to not listen to, and you're just going to have to move forward and do your thing. But you know, this person like gives a good counterpoint, you know, to why there is pushback. Anyway, moving on. Not everyone who hates the romance is hating on John. That's true, but I think a lot of people probably are, if even not on the surface, but I'm not insinuating that on this poster. I like John. Okay, but the Hawks don't deserve this. Why it's been off the table is because it's never been a thing in the comics. Um, okay, I can see you saying maybe Hawkman doesn't deserve this, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the relationship with Green Lantern has only done Hawkgirl, um, or if you want to call her Hawkwoman, has only done her a favor. Essentially, it's only elevated her, it's only propelled her, it's only gotten her more fans than she would have otherwise. So that's not quite an accurate statement. Um, why it's been off the table is because it's never been a thing in comics ever. Okay, I think I read that, didn't I? Um, Breaking up the Hawks and their love story, which is my favorite in comics, that's fair. To appease fans of the cartoon is a spit in the face of the decades of Hawk fans. Um, I don't think that's entirely accurate, again, because you're disregarding the Hawk fans that are actually fans of the relationship, of which I know there are because I've seen them. I guess if you're talking about fans of the Hawk Girl and Hawkman romance, then that's fair, but not all fans of Hawk Girl are fans of that romance. And I think this is a part of the issue here with individuals who have opinions like this. The failure to acknowledge that despite their idea of comic book accuracy, it's the failure to acknowledge that people actually like this other stuff. I've run into a lot of that with Hal Jordan and Green Lantern fans as well. You know, they haven't they only have their own perspective, and I appreciate this particular poster here putting forward their perspective. One thing that I've been able to do, not to toot my own horn, is recognize that people have other perspectives. Now, I might not agree with them, but I recognize that they have them, and I tend to recognize why they have them. I've interacted with a lot of fans who seem to completely fail that other perspectives even exist, and they kind of live in this bubble where they think only theirs and like-minded people's perspective on things matters. And I'm getting a little bit of vibes from this poster here. It's this idea that, oh, this is the way it should be, this is the only way it can be. The thing is, like, I think this person knows other perspective exists. It's just that they fail to it's not that they fail to acknowledge them, it's that they fail to respect them, I think is what it is. Um, in the sense that that other take on things, that other perspective, and being a fan of it is something that should never even ever have ever even happened, even though it did, and it was more successful than whatever he is a fan of. And I don't want to get into like a measuring contest here. Like, I think, you know, if you're a fan of Hawkman and Hawkwoman, that's valid. Like, there's nothing I can do or say that would reasonably invalidate that. And I think it's fine to be a fan of that. But you do have to, like, respect that there are people who are fans of Hawkgirl in a relationship with another person. And that's actually worked, and it's actually been successful. Trying to, like, plug your ears and act like, pretend that it's not that. I don't want to, like, say inaccuracies about the person, but pretending that never happened or acting like it shouldn't be a part of the history, because the poster here basically says that. Let me. I'm sorry, I dropped my phone. Let me see if I could find. Where's that 80-year comment in here? Okay, here it is. Where's the beginning of the sentence? It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with Hal. It has everything to do with it not being part of Hawkman and Hawkwoman's characters in their 80-year history. But that's an inaccurate statement, and that's a good example of what I'm talking about. You're completely disregarding it as if it never happened, but it actually has. And then the argument is that, well, that's comics inaccurate, but so is so much other stuff that's been incorporated into the comics. But then you're saying, well, that's a spit in Hawkman's face. I haven't touched on that. There are two Hawk girls here. Reasonably, everybody should be able to have their cake and eat it too. There is the Shiera Hall version of Hawk Girl, and there's the Kendra Saunders version of Hawk Girl. Um, Reasonably, with two Hawk girls, Hawkman should not be left out in the cold. Now, for whatever boneheaded reason, and I am gonna actually, you could actually point to, let's get back to that Robert Venditti run. Here's what I would argue: if DC had any sense, they would put the Shiera Hull Hawk Girl with John Stewart, because that's what a lot of people are familiar with, that's what a lot of people know, and that's what a lot of people love. They would put the Kendra Saunders version of Hawkgirl with Hawkman, because again, there's history of those two being involved. But here's your argument. This Robert Venditti run used the Shiera Hull version of Hawkgirl to put with. Okay, then I'm gonna, and you're gonna argue that the Robert Venditti run, which was apparently good, is the thing that we should pay attention to. But let me stop you here. Here's the other point of view. I contest that DC was incredibly stupid to do that. They should have always done this Hawk Girl John Stewart romance, because why? People liked it and it's popular regardless of what other people think. And that Robert Venditti run should have been using Kendra as Hawk Girl to put with Hawkman, and that would solve everybody's problem. So to counter that point, I would say that the Robert Venditti run is at fault. Um, and that DC should have incorporated the Hot Girl John Stewart romance actually at this point decades ago, because it's popular. There's an easy way to do that without harming Hawkman or Hawkman's credibility or anything like that. DC was just too stupid and boneheaded to go ahead and do that. So it's there's a counterpoint you could make to that just to sum it up again, Hawkgirl and Green Lantern should have been incorporated into comics decades ago. This could have been done easily without harming Hawkman, because there is more than one Hawkgirl. You should just put the other Hawkgirl with Hawkman. The Shiera and Hawkman romance is not as popular as it seems to me as the one with Green Lantern, but I admit I don't have graphs to prove this, but it just seems to me that it is not. So I mean, I think DC was stupid. It's like they go the wrong way every single time. You could have avoided this whole thing, but no, they just keep making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, likely unintentionally, but they still keep doing it because of lack of perspective. This whole situation could have easily been avoided, but I contest that even if DC had done everything to avoid the situation, you would still get this pushback from people. That's my personal belief on the issue, just based off of experience and fans and dealing with them. But anyway, I appreciate this person leaving the comment. Again, this isn't to attack this person. It's just to create further dialogue and discussion about this topic, because I think this is an interesting topic, and Green Lantern and Hot Girl is always something I'm happy and willing to talk about. But anyway, that's it for now. If this content appeals to you, be sure to like and subscribe, and check out my own comic at ZATSWAN.com, and I will hopefully talk to all of you again very soon. Take care.